Okay, we're going to go through some basic fit changes on this jacket. In class, we talked about the armhole, the shoulder slope, and the sleeve cap corrections that we can do and how they interact with each other and are somewhat dependent on each other. So, taking a look at this fit before I apply the puffy, just because I can really see what's happening with the shape of the pattern. If you've already applied your puffy fabric, that's fine. You can also just replace it with the stretch woven again, and then when you're done, put it back into the puffy. But what I see is I do see a little bit of a narrow armhole down here, and I also see that when he has his arms raised, he is sort of kind of pulling at this bust point. So perhaps that sleeve cap is a little too tall. Or it could just be that the slope is not sloped enough, and so the sleeve cap and armhole are not really sitting where they should. So the first thing I'm going to do is just come in here and try to add a little bit of saddle width to the armhole. I'm going to scoop out the armhole shape here a little bit. Maybe add a little bit at the bust here. And then I'm going to probably increase this shoulder slope here a little bit. And then I'm going to see what the effect is on my armhole versus my sleeve cap. Before I start this though, I'm going to make myself two rulers. So I'm going to select my front and back armholes, and I'm going to choose Save Ruler. When I go to the Parameters menu and Rulers, I should see over here a new ruler with a number, and I'm going to name this armhole. And then I'll grab one of the sleeve caps and say Save Ruler, and I will say Sleeve Cap. Okay, so right now there's just not even really 1/8 of an inch ease in the sleeve cap to armhole. So I will try to maintain that, or at least go no more than maybe 3/8 of an inch ease. So when I'm starting to manipulate curves, the first thing I'm going to want to do is go to Select, Edit Points, and then I'm going to turn on Multi-Move. Multi-Move gives me my thumbtacks that will hold specific points so that I can move only particular parts of the pattern. So for example, if I want to increase this bust extension here at the armhole, I don't want to just extend this out. The whole armhole will move with it. So I want to hold this across front point so that I can move this out. So that I can see my pattern changes well, I'm going to turn off textures, which is this first box in my 2D screen icon, and I'm going to turn on trace changes, which is this half-filled square icon. All right, now on my armhole I have no additional internal points. I only have these two endpoints. So I want to add a point right where this line hits the armhole. So I'm going to select the end point of this line, and I'm going to choose under Point Actions, Add Point to Edge. And then I'm going to toggle off my internal lines. When my internal lines are on, I have a hard time selecting points that are right underneath those lines on my edge. So if I turn internals off, just toggle them off, I then am able to select that point. I'm going to make it a pin point. Okay, so it's now going to be a holding position. Do the same thing on my back. With internals turned on, select that edge end point, choose Add Point to Edge, turn internals off, and turn this into a pinpoint. Okay, so now when I extend these bust points, say 1/4 of an inch, I'm just extending right here, and I'm blending to 0 here. Now, if I had really just wanted to extend it straight out, I could have put a pinpoint maybe right here, just above it, so that it really just extends from that particular position. But I'm going to reshape my armhole anyway, so I'm not too concerned about it. Okay. All right, so I've made the same correction on front and back, added 1/4 of an inch. I'm then going to use my handles that I have here to try to curve my armholes a little bit more. I think there is an opportunity to add a little bit more of a scooped shape here. And I also think that we can bring in the cross front, cross back just a tad. Obviously, this is sort of a more boxier fit jacket. I do not want a super curved, contrived, armhole shape, but I do think I have a little bit of room to manipulate here. So I just went in 1/8 of an inch there. I'm going to go 1/8 of an inch in here. These are really minimal changes, but I do think they'll make a difference. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Update 3D. You can do this as much as you want, and you'll start to see the changes. So I already see that my armhole has a little bit more room front to back now. Okay, and so I'm good with that for now. I'm going to increase my shoulder slope. So just for reference, I'm going to do a quick fast measure, which is an insert fast measure. I'm going to make sure my snap to point and guidelines are on. I'm just going to hold shift and measure this. So my slope right now is like 1.25 inches on the front. It looks a little bit more shallow on the back. Yeah, about 1 inch. Oh, it's not snapping to my guidelines, but there you have it. So about 1 inch, 1.25 inches, so averaging out to about 1.125 on that garment probably. That's a pretty straight shoulder for a men's garment, especially considering that it's a little bit dropped and a little bit off of his natural shoulder. So I'm gonna drop it. Typically when I'm messing with shoulder slopes, if it's a set-in sleeve, I just try kind of 1/8 of an inch at a time, but in this case, I think I'm going to go ahead and try 1/4 because it looks like we have a lot of room to move. So I can move in the Y direction 1/4 of an inch, but it will kind of change my point position. If I would prefer, I could use the slide function. But remember, when we use slide with points, we don't get a value entry box over here. We have to use the values on the 2D screen. So I could choose this 10.817 and just enter -0.25. And the system will calculate for me, and that shoulder point will stay on the already existing armhole line. I'm going to do the same thing on my back. Again, I don't need the actual values. I just need to do the math, let the system do the math for me. Okay, and then I'm going to dress this. Okay. All right, so let's check out my armhole sleeve cap situation. So my armhole is now a tad bit bigger than my sleeve cap. Okay. Probably because we added a little bit of curve, we added this 1/4 of an inch, even though we took off a little bit here, we still did add a significant amount to our armhole. Okay, so on my sleeve cap, actually before I get there, one other thing I'll say is try different poses as you're working on these. I like the T-pose to sort of show me if I do have a lift issue or a shoulder slope issue, but that's not really how we're necessarily fitting in the regular physical world. So oftentimes we may want to put him in an A pose. The A pose lets us be able to see what's happening kind of underneath the sleeve without having his arms all the way down. So I can do this as well and just make sure that I'm still happy with these changes that I've made so far. It's easy to overcorrect a shoulder or a sleeve cap when his arms are teed, and then when you put his arms down, suddenly your sleeve cap is too short or your shoulder slope is too sloped. Okay, so this is looking good. This is looking a lot better to me. His shoulder seam is kind of falling off down on his shoulder and not sticking straight out. The angle into the sleeve looks okay to me, so I'm not completely unhappy with that sleeve cap. When his arms were up, I couldn't really tell if he had a sleeve cap issue, if he just didn't have enough lift, or if his shoulder slope was off. So I think that's looking a lot better, and his sleeve cap looks okay to me now. Okay, so I really just need to match my sleeve cap to my armhole. So I need to add probably about 3/8 of an inch at least. So I'm gonna use my bicep lever, and I'm going to turn internals off so I can select these points. I already have my pin marks here, 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 and here. So I may want one in the middle here, but actually I feel like this sleeve cap needs a little bit more scooped shape here. It looks a little too full at the top. So I'm just going to leave the pins as they are, move the bicep point, and then reshape. So I'm going to turn slide off. If you ever think that you're about to use the transformation or the transform functions and they're not there, chances are you left slide on and you just need to turn it off so you get your transformation tools here. Okay, so in the Y, I'm going to enter, I'm going to start with, I'll start with a quarter. And then I'm going to do on the other side, positive a quarter. Okay, and then I'm going to use my handles to kind of scoop this shape just a bit more. I'm going to mimic that shape on this side, trying to keep these 90. Okay, and then if your sleeve cap gets too narrow, you can always then just extend these handles at the sleeve cap out a little bit. I'm holding shift to make sure that that handle stays 90 degrees. Okay, so my sleeve cap now is a 1/4 inch larger than my armhole. I'm just going to dress this. The other suggestion I will make is that if you're making, these are pretty minor tweaks. I'm just really perfecting fit, and I want you guys to just practice playing with the handles, changing the shapes a little bit, and using your pin tools. But if I was making really significant fit changes, I would sometimes re-prepare and redress. Sometimes I find, like, even though I see the little changes being made, when I'm making really big changes, sometimes he just needs like a fresh new dress and style to really see the changes a lot. So that's it for fit correction. So for your homework, you do not have to do these exact changes. If you want to try something different, if you want to play with the sleeve cap height, please do. If you want to change the armhole in a different way, please do. I mostly just want to see that you feel comfortable changing shapes, pinning points, and manipulating fit, and also that you can check your patterns as you go and make sure that you're maintaining seam lengths and ease. Okay,